Okay, every pony, we're almost to the end. As I'm sure you can reasonably infer from last time, this is where things are gonna get steamy. So I'm not gonna waste any more time other than to thank those who took the time out to listen to this and stick with me and put up with my weird voice. So yeah, let's just finish this baby up. Despite his shock, Silver returned the kiss, feeling Octavia's tongue pressing into his mouth. After a few seconds, she broke away, breathing heavily, a strand of saliva connecting their mouths. Silver sat there, blinking for a moment. Well, that was, he began, before Octavia leaped on top of him, pressing his back against the bed and embracing him in a kiss once again. Silver was quickly growing more confident, snogging Octavia and running his forehooves along her back and flank at the same time. He could feel the heat from her body, feel the sweat forming on her chest as he held her close. In a few more minutes, Octavia finally broke away, huffing, and rested her forehead against Silver's own. "If it's okay, can I ask why?" Silver asked her softly. "Alcohol, I'm assuming," she said with a chuckle. "And it's just been stressful lately. Plus, I kind of like you." Octavia gave him another peck on the lips. Silver smiled at her, if a bit nervously. Octavia noticed the look on his face. "Just relax," she whispered, moving down to kiss his neck, chest, stomach. Sweet Celestia, was this really happening? Silver looked down at her, seeing her eyes watching him just before she moved her head down towards his groin. Octavia flicked her tongue out, swirling it around the tip of his shaft as Silver jolted in sudden feeling. She began moving her tongue down, massaging the sensitive head of his member and the rest of his length, all the way to the base. Silver just clenched his teeth as waves of pleasure passed through him. Octavia brought her tongue back up, bathing every inch of his shaft, before reaching the top and taking the head into her mouth. Slowly, she let her head slide down his member, taking the entire length down her throat. Pulling away for a moment, she quickly caught her breath, then began bobbing her head up and down along his shaft. Silver groaned, intense pleasure coursing through his body. The temperature in the room seemed to be rising at an alarming rate. Octavia finally pulled her head away, panting, as she slowly rubbed a forehoof along his length. Her tongue was hanging out, still dripping wet, and sweat beaded her brow. "How was that?" she asked with that gentle smile of hers. "Amazing, to say the least," Silver replied, his mind still reeling. Octavia chuckled, slowly crawling her way back up his body. Soon they were face to face again. Octavia gave him a tender, if sloppy, kiss on the lips. Without a word, she pressed her hips down, grinding against Silver's shaft. Silver was frozen for a moment, a surge of bliss pouring through him. He could feel Octavia's tender marehood growing wet, her softness caressing his length. Octavia smiled, watching Silver squirm. She herself could feel fluttery pleasure rising from her groin. After a few more moments, Octavia lifted herself up, placing the head of Silver's member into her. Slowly, she let herself fall downwards, moaning loudly as she felt his length reaching deep inside her, and began bouncing up and down along his shaft. Octavia felt like she was in heaven, feeling his rod massage her inner walls tightly, stimulating the nerves she could never reach on her own. Silver got into the rhythm of her bouncing, matching her movements and thrusting up into her each time she came down. Octavia continued to move faster, moaning in delight as she felt Silver ramming deeper than ever. But she could only keep up the pace for so long, and started growing tired. Silver, noticing this, swiftly sat up, wrapping his arms around her and spinning them both over. Octavia now lay on her back, her fluorescent purple eyes looking into his longingly. Wasting no more time, Silver began pounding into her. Octavia clenched onto him tighter, her eyes rolling back in their sockets as she became lost in a sea of bliss. Silver moaned, wrapping his arms around her back and holding her close. He could feel his chest against hers, feel her heart beating rapidly. His mind became clouded in euphoria, only able to focus on the gray mare beneath him, and the pleasure that tore through his body. Every movement, every thrust, brought more wonderful feelings. Finally, the two of them could feel a rising sensation, and together they reached their climax. Octavia squeezed tightly around his shaft, crying out as she felt an explosion of pleasure from her marehood. She could feel her wetness coating his length, but everything else was lost in the back of her mind. Silver felt an intense shot of pure ecstasy cascade through his veins, coming to a head as he shot stream after stream of his thick seed into her body. Silver pulled out, shooting his last few strands onto her chest, before collapsing beside her, the two of them huffing in exhaustion. Seconds ticked by, turning into minutes, until finally, the two of them could breathe normally again, the passion slowly fading away. The temperature seemed to grow normal again. Octavia rolled onto her side, draping a hoof over Silver's chest. "Is it just me?" she asked with a smile. "Or is it really hot in here?" "It's really hot in here," Silver replied with a chuckle. Octavia snuggled close to him. "I haven't felt this relaxed in forever," she said to him softly. "Well, I guess that sex is an effective form of stress relief," he replied, making Octavia giggle. "Silver, do you think you'd want to see me again?" Silver looked at her in surprise. "I mean, I'd really like to." "You're not just saying that because you're drunk, are you?" "I am most certainly not," Octavia refuted with mock indignation. "Well, then I would love to," Silver whispered, leaning down and kissing her on the lips again. The two of them lay there together, Octavia closing her eyes and slowly falling asleep. Silver lay awake a while longer, closing his eyes and thinking to himself, "Is this a dream? I mean, when I wake up tomorrow, will she be here with me?" He opened his and looked down at her quiet, peaceful form. "Of course she will," Silver assured himself with a smile, closing his eyes and drifting off to sleep. The end. When wit and wine and friends have met, and laughter crowns the festive hour, in vain I struggle to forget. Still does my heart confess thy power, and fondly turn to thee. But Octavia, do not strive to rob my heart of all that soothes its pain, the mournful hope that every throb will make its break for thee. That last section is a bit of prose included at the end there. Once again, Liquid Rainbows, this goes out to you. Your work was always awesome. I hope everyone else enjoyed that, and hopefully my narrative skills are improving. Couple additional updates before I go. In uploading the previous part of this story, or maybe even earlier, but I only just noticed, I have received the message about being able to upload past 15 minutes now, so that should come in handy in the future. As to what I'm doing next, the next chapter of Octaves Beyond has been released on filmfiction.net, but I think I'm going to take a break from Octavia stories for a while. And so if I'm not doing anything else for a while, if I don't get any ideas for another music video or anything like that, then next I want to read Blue Steel Railway by Writer. That could be very soon, so until then, my viewers, my subscribers, thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope to be back soon. See you later.